Do you want to learn how to dominate gem grab like a pro? Because I'm going to tell you everything you need to know. Let's get into it. Now tomorrow, I'm going to go over the best and worst brawlers in gem grab in a brawler tier list. But today, I'm going to give you the very best tips to help you become a master at gem grab. Now there's one thing you need to know. Everyone needs to know in gem grab, unless you want to just stay that random person who always walks down the middle, that sort of style of person every single time in gem grab. You gotta know the 3 roles for gem grab. Now if you do know these 3 roles already, go ahead, you can skip forward a couple minutes and you can get straight into the tips to dominate gem grab. But the first thing you have to know, everyone needs to know for gem grab, is the 3 roles that brawlers take in gem grab. The first one is of course gonna be the gem carrier. This is gonna be the person who picks up all of the gems. You want this person to take all of the gems. That is literally gonna be them. They will have to be very high survival ability. They don't want to be playing close to the enemy. They're gonna be that person who is gonna be picking up all the gems, and they want to take those gems the whole time, and they want to never die. If they are dying, they're not doing their job well, or at the least their teammates aren't doing their job well, and they really should be always just falling back. If their teammates ever die, they gotta be staying alive no matter what. So brawlers like Pam, Penny, Jessie, Piper, Bo, and Poco are all going to be good examples of gem carriers. Now, depending on the balance changes in the meta, it's going to depend on which ones are best. I will show you the best ones tomorrow, but those are all going to be the good gem carriers. All those brawlers have a long enough range to keep them away from enemies, and they either have enough health or some other factor that allows them to just stay alive fairly well. The next role is going to be the aggro, short for aggressive. This is a brawler that's going to be closest to the enemy. Usually, they can put out a lot of pressure. They're really good by themselves, and they're really hard to deal with in a 1v1 that's in short to medium range combat. These brawlers are going to be putting a lot of pressure on the enemy, going really far up the map, flanking them. They're going to be by themselves a lot of times, maybe not always getting help from their teammates, but they're able to survive and do a lot of damage by themselves. Brawlers, a lot of close and medium range brawlers like Nita, Tara, Bull, Leon, El Primo, Frank, Mortis, Daryl, and Shelly. Now, one thing you might be wondering, I know a lot of early players wonder, what about Mortis? Like, why is Mortis not a gem carrier? I can think he has really high survivability, right, Corey? Because he has really fast move speed, he has an attack that allows him to dash, he's a pretty good health, he even has a star power that allows him to heal up. But the thing is, if you do gem carrier Mortis and all you are doing is running in and getting gems and all you are doing is running back, you are not helping your team at all. It becomes a 2 versus 3. You do almost no damage unless someone is right next to you, and if you are the gem carrier, you do not want anyone right next to you. The other option, of course, is you go grab those gems and then you play a little bit aggressive, and you are going after kills and trying to do damage, not trying to have it be a 2 versus 3, but then you're bringing gems closer to the enemy and you will probably die and give them the gems. So Mortis is a very bad example of a gem carrier, and except in emergencies, when you need to grab those gems and there's no other option, then sure, Mortis can find, like if there's 10 gems on the ground, Mortis might be your best guy to go grab those 10 gems, but otherwise, Mortis is not a gem carrier. The third and last role is the support brawler. This is a brawler that can do a good amount of damage, or they have a good amount of control that can help out the gem carrier. Usually they have a fairly long range because this allows them to stay somewhere in the proximity of your gem carrier, allowing you to help them out when needed. It's going to be brawlers like Spike, Brock, Crow, Colt, Ricochet, Barley, Dynamite. All these brawlers either have a good amount of damage or a good amount of control and enough range that allows them to stay alive and deal a decent amount of damage and help out their gem carrier when needed. Now, they're the probable preferred emergency gem carrier if their gem carrier dies and they have to pick up the gems. You would always prefer the gem carrier to have it, but then it's going to be support, and last it's going to be aggro. Now let's get into the tips to help you dominate in gem grab. The first thing and the next thing you got to know is you want to have one person in each lane. You want to have one person in the left, one person in the middle, and one person in the right. Now the gem carrier is going to be in the middle always, and depending on the map, it'll change who's on the left and who's on the right. You're just going to want to go on whichever side is better for the brawler you're playing. But this is really important to know. You want to have one in each lane. If you ever lose a lane, you can easily get flanked, and getting flanked in gem grab can be a really big problem and can cause a lot of deaths. If you ever do get flanked, you might end up having to do a 2 versus 1 on that person to be able to push them out of that flanked area and get control again. And in general, you're going to want to take on the person on the opposite side of you. You're going to want to engage in that 1v1 versus the person on the opposite side of you. Another tip I would give is once you get a little higher in trophies, you can start doing this more, because more people will actually be following this rule. In the lower trophies, you might end up seeing some people who just rush the middle, which you do not want to do. But that gem carrier, actually what you want to do is you want to focus on someone on the left or the right. You do want to help out, like attack the middle person a little bit, but you want to help out one of your teammates to try and help get that first kill. If you can get that first kill, you can establish control of the map early on. Whoever gets that first kill usually does have an advantage earlier on. You can have a 3 versus 2, and of course, I'm sure you can see how that's beneficial. So as a gem carrier, typically you want to start attacking the sides a little bit if you have the shots, if they are there. If they're not there, just attack the person in the middle and stay alive. Tip number 2, and I know I talked about this earlier, but seriously, if you are not the gem carrier, do not pick up gems. Like, ever. Do not pick up gems. Even if you are a support brawler, do not pick up gems. Even if you have long range as a support brawler, you think you can get away with it? If the gem carrier is alive and the gem carrier is somewhere near there, go ahead, let them pick it up. Like, do not do it, especially if you're an aggro. Worst case is aggro picks it up. Like, that is, they almost, not always, but a lot of times, they're going to give that gem up to the enemy. They're going to bring it closer to them. The only other exception is if your gem carrier dies and drops all the gems. What do you do then? The preferable thing is to stall. Do not pick it up yet unless you know the enemy is going to pick it up and you can't kill them. And then you should pick it up then and try and back away. Pick up as many as you can and go away. Otherwise, just try and stall, deal damage to the enemy, and wait for your gem carrier to come back. Let them pick it up. A lot of times, if the gem carrier was a little bit close to your spawn, they can come back and pick it up without too much of a problem. Now, tip number 3 and 4 are probably the most important to getting really consistent and a lot of wins in gem grab. Tip number 3 is you want to go for control, not kills in gem grab. Gem grab, it doesn't matter how many kills you get. It doesn't matter. You can easily have way more kills than the other team and you can still lose. The most important thing is having control of the map, control of the gem mine, getting all those gems and just keeping the enemy back. The whole goal is just try and keep the enemy back. It doesn't matter if you're getting kills, as if you're dealing damage. As long as they're staying back away from you and away from the gem mine, you're doing great. It doesn't matter if you're getting kills. If you go in and you get a kill, but then you die in the process, you might think, okay, that's not that bad of a trade, right? 1 for 1. But no, actually that's much worse than just doing nothing and not dying and just keeping them back. Because what that's going to allow them to do is now they can advance on that side of the map. And they're going to respawn, you're going to respawn. And the best case, all you can do is meet in the middle, which is not control. So you want to try and keep them back. You don't need to be going for kills. You don't need to be making flashy plays, doing a lot of damage. You just want to keep them back. And if you can keep control of the gem mine, you will get the majority of the gems and you will win. Tip number 4 builds on tip number 3, and it's going to be you want to spawn trap the enemy. Once you establish control, you want to keep them in their spawn. It's very important to set up this spawn trap. And another tip I will give is, as the gem carrier, you actually don't need to always be going back to pick up those gems. You have, if you're in a spawn trap, you are spawn trapping the enemy, go ahead and just keep the best position to keep that spawn trap. And once you start losing control of your spawn trap, then as you're falling back, you can pick up all those gems that have spawned. And this is also a really good tip as well, because the enemy might not know actually how close you are to countdown, because maybe there's 2 or 3 or 4 gems that are actually just on the map that you haven't collected yet and they don't realize. So that's a really good tip to keep the enemy on their toes and not really know how close you are to countdown. Keep up that spawn trap. Just keep them in their lanes, keep them in their spawn. You don't need to be making too many flashy plays. Of course, you got to watch out for that invincibility. You don't want to be going too far into their spawn, because then you will have to deal with that. You don't need to be going strictly for damage. You just want to keep them in their spawn. Tip number 5 is something I see a lot of low trophy teams not do very well. You have to attack as a team. This can be really important in gem grab. If you have someone on your team dying and you're in a 3 versus 2, all of a sudden you really want to consider falling back. Unless you're in a really good position, you don't want to take on more people than you can handle. If you get caught in a 2 versus 1, you are very likely to die unless you have a really good super or some other situation that just allows you to somehow win that 2 versus 1. It's going to be not in your favor. So you want to be making sure you're attacking as a team. If you're all just going in and dying one by one by one by one, you just spawn, you run in and die. If you just spawn, you run in and die. You see a lot of low trophy teams do that. You don't want to do that. Just wait for your teammates to respawn, let them get up close to you again, and then you can start attacking as a team, and you're going to do much better. 5 to 2 versus 1 if you can, get that kill, and then you can make a 3 versus 2, and you can push out. This is a really important thing to do for getting out of spawn traps. You want to try and wait for your team to come back. If you're constantly going in 2 versus 3s, it will make it very, very difficult for you to get out of any sort of spawn trap, as it's just going to be too many people attacking you at once. There's going to be too much pressure. You're going to be low to mid health. You're not going to be able to heal up. There's a lot of things that just aren't going to go well. So build up your supers and attack as a team. Tip number 6 is another thing low trophy players tend to not do quite as well. Do you want to fall back once your team has countdown and a 2 gem lead? Once you get countdown, you definitely want to start falling back. You have 15 seconds. And you got to try and stay alive. So slowly start falling back to your spawn. And as you're falling back to your spawn, make sure you're shooting the enemy and not allowing them to advance too quickly. Even though you have 15 seconds, there is still time for them to come in and take your gems. Even if you are in the spawn, if you allow them to advance way too quickly. You want to always be trying to get closer to your spawn as you get countdown, because you want to be able to get closer to that respawn. And once you respawn, you are invincible. And even if the person carrying the gems doesn't die, when your teammates dies, they can respawn with invincibility and help you out again, and they'll help you out sooner if you are closer to your spawn. This is a very important thing to do. Now, the other thing I mentioned is you want to do it when you have a 2 gem lead. Gems spawn every 7 seconds. So within countdown, which is 15 seconds, 2 gems can spawn. So let's say the score is 10 to 8, a very common score in a lot of games. They can still come back. If you start falling back and they're only 2 gems behind, they will catch up, unless they just go Rambo and suicide, which does happen sometimes, but you shouldn't be doing that. They will be able to catch up. So make sure to try and get 1 more gem, or at the least, if you don't get 1 more gem, just make it very difficult, make it almost impossible for them to get those next 2. Just deal a lot of damage to them. You know where they have to go. They have to go towards the gem mine to pick up those extra gems. So put on a lot of pressure in that area, or grab one if you can, and then fall back. Now, if you want to master other game modes in Brawl Stars, make sure to check out that playlist over there, giving you the best tips and brawlers to master each one. The best gem grab brawlers will be uploaded tomorrow and in that playlist. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you later.